All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome back. How many of you are excited to be back from school right after your nice winter break? Yay! Got one. All right. Marcus. All right, Marcus. And we won't tell that to your students, but I guarantee you your students feel the exact same way. What? So, if you've not done so already, if you can write down a question for the parking lot that we can go through and we'll pick one and answer. Thank you guys for coming. I know this probably feels like super long because we didn't do it last month, and so it's been a while. It's been a minute. And so in that, how's everyone? Feeling good? Are you starting to feel that, like, I see the end of the light. I see the school year starting to come around. Exactly. So Deidre will probably be here a little bit later. She's doing some kind of fancy monkey muck government thing or something or other. I don't know. And so I wanted to take over and kind of fill in for her. And yeah. So let me kind of go over what we're doing. And really quick. I know most of you in here know each other. You guys have been together for most of the year, but some of you still brand new. I think it's going. It's got a little red dot in the back. It should be good. But if you could just go around, we'll go around the room really fast. Again, remind us, tell us your name and just what you teach and where you teach it. So we'll start with you, Christian. Very cool. So today, what we're going to learn is today's theme is called Climbing the Matterhorn, because this is probably about where you guys are at, maybe even a little bit closer to here, but then you're going to get to that point where you're just sailing down. And so what that means is these are the topics we're going to do. This is today's agenda. We're going to do a real quick icebreaker. You guys won't have to get up and move around and stuff. We're going to do a parking lot question. And again, if you've not done so, please write a question. Go stick it up there. And then we're going to talk about what UDL means. We'll do another parking lot question, and then we'll close it out with talking about differentiation. So I went to a thingamajig a couple weeks ago about UDL and differentiation, and we kind of saved this one because I wanted to get as much intel on that and the experience myself before I gave it to you guys. So for your icebreaker question, you're going to have to get your thinking caps on. It's kind of get the juices, and I will tell you that hopefully you like the people you're sitting with today because you guys are going to do a lot of group work today.
Not really.
If you don't like the person you're sitting with, just go ahead and raise your hand so they don't. All right, so here's your icebreaker. When I say go, you can go. But working together in your group, write as many uses on a Post-it note that you can think of for a paperclip. You've got 1 minute. On your marks, get set, and go. All right. And pins down. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go around. We'll start with Christian, and he's going to name off what he wrote. If you also have that written on your list or in your group's list, if you guys did one together, go ahead and scratch that off. And we'll see what are some of the most unique things you guys thought of as what to do with a paperclip. Go ahead and did you guys do yours on the group list?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with this group.
Okay.
What you got?
Clipping paper.
Okay.
We got picking nose, picking handcuffs, picking lock. This is everyone's favorite. Resetting electronics.
Okay.
Resetting electronics. Testing circuits. Making bracelets. You can throw them at people.
Why are you looking at me?
What does this one say? Lint cleaner?
Yeah.
Lint cleaner, and you can make an icebreaker out of them.
Nice. Go ahead and give him a hand. Good job. Okay, table 2. You guys individually or?
Yeah, together.
Okay, go ahead. So same thing, if they say something, well actually you guys read all yours, so if they say anything that you guys also have, go ahead and scratch that out.
Okay, I think that does our whole list then.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
So do you guys have everything that they had, or?
I don't think we have it. Oh, well, I guess we'd never pick a lock with a paper clip, but we would use it as a key,
Okay.
you know, because we don't pick locks.
I appreciate that. Only our criminal justice instructor picking locks.
We're qualified.
And we can use it to push the SIM cards out of our phones.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Any of you guys get stuff like that? Anything else?
Can I use it as a weapon?
That you can.
Yeah, you could be.
Glad you said it.
See, was that movie Daredevil where he does
Yeah,
that?
could be.
Don't be close together.
Okay.
But we're not around the students right now, so.
Right. All right, give them a hand. Good job. Table 3.
We didn't already say.
Anything anybody else did not already say?
Hold money,
Hold money.
hold clothes together, a chain necklace, an earring, and pierce your ears with it, and hold glasses together.
Fantastic. Give them a hand. How many of you felt like this was actually challenging to do, to think of like how hard is it to think of what we can do with a paperclip? And I like to do this because it's interesting to me. There's a study out there, and I couldn't tell you the exact numbers, but they say like usually adults can think of like somewhere around 20 or 25 uses of it. And then the younger that you get, the more you can think of. So like kindergartners can think of like over 100, of things to do with a paperclip. And so it's interesting to me how the creativity, and we're talking about education and all that kind of stuff, and it's going to lead into what we're doing today, but how education, we kind of get into this mode of like everything has to be done and thought of in a certain way. But the younger we are, the more experience there is, and the more creativity we have. So very cool. That's a fun thing. You guys can do that also with your class. Maybe tell them in 1 minute think of as many things as you can with this exercise. So now we're going to do a parking lot question. I feel like I need a clicker. And if you've not put one up here yet, go ahead and do that. At least for the next round when we take a break. I'm just going to grab one. This is interesting. So the in-depth question for today, and I'll ask Hisham if you can answer this for me, because I don't know. How do you remove dye from your skin?
Who got dye on their skin?
Hydrogen peroxide.
Hydrogen peroxide,
Lemon oil.
lemon oil,
Lack of thinner.
lacquer thinner.
On your skin?
Will any of this put you in the hospital?
Laser.
Laser it out.
Carburetor
Who
starter.
got dye on their skin?
Okay.
I got a little bit of dye right here, okay?
Oh,
So I needed some tips, and I tried to water it
Oh,
on.
okay.
All right? Okay with me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the rinse, alcohol.
That was a good hygiene one.
So you were coloring your own hair?
What?
You were dyeing your own hair?
I did, yeah.
He's smart today.
Rubbing alcohol.
That's right.
Thank you.
And I appreciate he's showing school spirit today. He's teaching out the School of Joker Villains. All right, another good question. What are some detention alternatives? What are some alternatives to giving students detention?
Cleaning the desk.
Cleaning the desk, okay? Anybody else? Other ways, and what essentially we're talking about is having to give students a consequence for, whatever may have occurred. What are some other ways you guys have heard of or seen other people do? Go ahead, Marcos.
I usually, if it's reasonable, I usually allow the student to choose what they see as it's something that they can, pay it forward. For example, many of us can say, well, we'll keep them here for 30 minutes. That should be enough. But then sometimes some of the kids are, they have to be with their parents at a certain time. They may have other siblings that the parents need to pick them up. So that can be a problem. So I usually say, well, what do you think is fair for what you did?
Yeah.
And usually if it's reasonable, then I agree with them. And that way the consequence isn't necessarily coming from me. It's them that they're creating their own consequence here.
Good. Yeah, that's good. Anybody else? You guys are so kind of, how many I forget? Second year teachers, you're a second year. Robert, you're a second year. Not sure if there's anything, and most of you I think are all first years, right?
No, I'm on my second.
Second year. But first year with us.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Fortunately I personally didn't have a whole lot of like, you're doing detention after school issues. Most of the stuff I had was they were acting up while on the computer, and as a lab teacher, it's easy. You just can lock them and they're done. 1 year I think my first year I had that they had to, I think they had to research something, but it wasn't on the computer. They actually had to pull out encyclopedias and write down something about graphic design or something like that. So So yeah, there's other things to do, and it may not have to be like after-school detention. It might just be like removing them from the project and saying, okay, we need to come sit over here and do this thing by yourself or whatnot, and kind of talk, figure out why are they acting the way they're acting. So
Yeah, I do think that it is very, what's the issue specific?
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of hard without knowing what the issue is.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of want to figure out what's going on with them. And that's why I'm always a person who wants to figure out, like, where's the student at? What's going on with them? Or, what was their morning like? Maybe they didn't get breakfast. Maybe they haven't had breakfast in months. Maybe they had to walk to school and they had to leave at 5 a.m. to get there. Like, you just don't know what their situation is. So, good. Great question. So let's jump into our topic today. And so what we're going to do is talk about UDL versus differentiation. And if those words sound like they're big, scary words that it's just one more teacher speak thing to add, hopefully we'll break it down. It won't be so much. So if you've not done so, do me a favor, go ahead and open up your laptops. Make sure they're on. I think they sign in automatically. And I am going to have we'll use them off and on throughout the day. And so we're going to do a lot of group stuff. So who's ever heard of the word universal design? A little bit, yeah. And universal design, without maybe reading it word for word, like what does that sound like it would be? What does the word universal sound like? Everyone, everything, right? Universal, kind of everywhere. What about the word design? What does that sound like? Especially my STEAM teachers. Yeah, we're creating something. So it really is that simple, just kind of putting those words together. Creating something that is for everyone is literally what it means. The definition I have up here is universal design is a design concept that recognizes, respects, values, and attempts to accommodate the broadest possible spectrum of human ability in the design of all products, environments, and information systems. How many of you think you come across universal design in your day-to-day? One of you, two, a couple of you, okay. Those of you who do come across universal design, how many of you notice it? Like you're walking in the store and like, oh, that's universal design. Hopefully not. You might come across it, but you may not even recognize it. So to give you an example, how many of you ignore the heavy-set fellow in the middle? How many of you recognize that door? Where is that door?
The front.
It's that door you walked in today. It is the exact same door, just a different day. There's Hisham's car there. And so that is the door you walked in right now to get into this building. Did you notice that there was universal design for it? Probably not, and you've probably walked into it a lot. That door has a button you can press, and it automatically it's handicap accessible, and it automatically opens up if you press that button. That button has this ramp that if you were somebody who was in a wheelchair or had a walker or something and had a hard time getting into the building, you had this ramp. Now, I love this ramp because, and especially Christine loves it, because we had to get all this stuff in here. And do you think that we put all the laptops and the tables and the supplies on our backs and just puffed it over here? Probably not. What do you think we used to get all of this equipment into this room? Like, how did we get it from our building to this building? Put in that cart right there. And how did that cart right there and this door, how did this make it easier to get that cart in this room? Just had a curve. I think I'm fairly fit. Don't ask my wife that question, but I think I'm all right. And I don't need to be in a wheelchair. I don't need to have crutches or anything to move around. I can walk on my own 2 feet. But I love the fact that this is there because I can just roll what I need into. It's super easy for me. Those of you who go in cities, you'll see people biking and walking and trekking around and using dollies. And these curb cuts are a thing that is universally designed, that is benefiting everybody, and most of the time we don't even notice it. What I do notice is when Christina and I have to go back to put this stuff back in our building, we have this door instead. And that curb, 10,000 times out of a million, we're like, oh, that's right, I can't carry this big heavy cart through that door. So instead what we do is we go to the other side where IT is, because that's where that cart comes accessible. It's easy for us. So does that make sense? Like, that is what universal design is. Make sense? Sweet. So now using the laptops, let me show you another story. So this guy here, his name's Matti Makkonen, and he is an engineer from Finland. He's credited with inventing a technology that was created to help deaf people be able to communicate with each other. And what I want you to do is go ahead and go to this Mentimeter. And if you've never used this before, go to Mentimeter.com. It's going to ask for a code. You're going to type in 328632. Type in, what is your best guess as to what Matti Makkonen's accessibility invention is?
Google it.
Don't Google it, you cheaters. That was a Google. All right.
On the top of his head.
All right, here we go. This Tears for Fears just ended. Those of you who said texting are correct. So his invention was he would created a way for deaf people to communicate with each other. And he's like, everybody's got phones, we're using phones now. I bet you I can invent something that they could communicate to each other just reading to each other. And how many of you use texting now? Most of us do. I'll be honest, I was a hater of it when it first came around. I'm like, texting? I'm like, that's so impersonal, and I'm not gonna text somebody. Who wants to type what they're gonna say? That's dumb. And now
you text your wife when she's in another room.
Now Mrs. McClung will text me, please pick this up from the store on your way home, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, my kids are upstairs, I could yell upstairs, Austin, come down and take out the trash bin. So I'm like, hey, can you take out the trash? And I love it. And so, and then we've even included, now that we're trying to include like emotions into our texting. So that's where we get our emoticons, our little smiley faces and GIFs and, all that funny stuff. Yeah, all that stuff. So now texting has evolved into now a natural way that we communicate. And it's now a universal design, unless maybe you have a hard time texting, but now it's something everybody uses and it's benefited everybody. So it's, again, another great example of what universal design is.
Now, when your wife texts you in all caps with an exclamation point, you don't go home for a while?
That's right. All caps. No, we all know what that means. So now we're going to kind of move it a step further and talk about UDL, which is basically universal design, that same concept, but we're adding for learning. So designing things that are for learning. And I kind of updated the definition. It says, a design concept that recognizes, respects, values, and intends to accommodate the broadest possible spectrum. And I added the words that are in bold are what I added to it, of human understanding. In the design of all lessons, classroom environments, and delivery systems. So now we're starting to build, like, what can I create? What lessons can I deliver that aren't just for one student, and it's not done just one way? How can I create something that everybody in my class can benefit from it? To kind of show you some examples. And this is a very cool video. No, it's about too long.
Excuse me.
Share this with you.
Imagine you went into a big closed store, and all that was on sale was one type of outfit, in one size, with no thought given to different individual body shapes or personalities. That would be crazy, right? Expecting everyone to be able to fit into the same size and express themselves in the same colour and style? Yet in many cases, that's exactly what is happening in our education system. When it comes to learning, variability is the rule, not the exception. And our college campuses are now grappling with the demands of an increasingly diverse cohort of learners, with increasing numbers of international students, students from different cultural and socio-economic backgrounds, mature students, and students with disabilities. Despite this, curriculums are still designed for the mythical average learner, and all are expected to engage and learn on the same terms. Not enough flexibility is built in at the design stage to give all students equal opportunities to learn in ways that play to their own strengths. So, how can our institutions respond to these challenges? Enter Universal Design for Learning, or UDL for short. UDL is an educational framework that guides the design of learning goals, materials, methods and assessments, as well as the policies surrounding these curricular elements with the diversity of learners in mind. The framework was developed by US organisation CAST and is based on research in the field of neuroscience. It promotes 3 core principles for educators to build into their teaching practice, calling on them to provide students with multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. The framework includes a set of guidelines on how you can turn these principles into practice. For example, by fostering collaboration with the introduction of group work with clear goals, roles, and responsibilities. By using different types of media to support learning and ensuring that all materials are accessible. And by providing a choice of assessment instruments while maintaining robust learning outcomes. You are probably already including some UDL elements in your practice without realising it, and there's much more to explore. So don't be afraid to let Universal Design for Learning give you a new lens through which to look at your teaching and learning practice and help you to better reach all of your students. For more information and resources, visit ahead.ie/UDL.
So, some of you in here teach the exact same class. You two are both teaching auto, you guys are both teaching STEAM, you guys are both teaching game design and animation, you guys are both teaching criminal justice, and I guarantee you, even though you guys all have the exact same outline, you guys are going to teach it your way. You're going to figure out your way of teaching it that you know how to give to your students. So why as educators do we expect our students to learn it in one way? Because we say, here's how you learn this lesson, but we usually don't give them a lot of choice in how they do that. We say, you're just gonna have to learn it the way I'm teaching it to you. And so the idea of this concept is that we build in things so that there's more accessibility and there's more freedom and choices in how they're learning the concepts. And it sounds like super huge and broad. And then, like I said, we're gonna kind of break it down a little bit easier for you guys to kind of get this. And my goal is that you don't go tomorrow and like overhaul your entire class, but my goal is like you're thinking about it. Like, what could I include in what I'm teaching to kind of be able to hit every student in my class? So this is kind of the fancy mucky muck of it all. The UDL kind of hits on first the engagement. Like, how am I engaging the students? What am I engaging the students with one thing? Am I engaging in one way of doing it? Do I only have like this textbook that they read and that's it? Just how are you engaging them? The second thing is representation. What content am I giving them? Am I giving them just this one, again, just this one definition of a thing to read? Or am I providing them multiple ways to learn the concept? And lastly, how they're showing you they understand it. Am I giving my students multiple ways to demonstrate that they understand what I just taught them? Or am I telling them, you have to write a book report. You have to write just this essay. You have to create this project, and that is it. And so kind of, and we'll give you these so you guys can go through and kind of click on some of the stuff yourself. I won't click on every little link that I have. But this is a cool little Google Doc that I hijacked. And it kind of just has you ask questions, you know, for universal engagement. You know, does the lesson provide options that all learners can regulate their own learning? For the representation, think about how the information is presented. Does the information provide options that helps them understand the symbols and expressions in it? How are the learners expected to act strategically and express themselves? Does the activity provide options that help learners express themselves strategically? So, you know, kind of, I'm gonna break this down a little bit further so it makes a little more sense. So you guys kind of get that? So we're taking universal design, we're just kind of applying it to education. Cool, good, all right. So here's an example. And I got this today because Ellen and I were discussing this concept, and she was telling me that when she was teaching, I think she used to teach a law class or something like that, she had a student that had a very hard time focusing on the notes that Ellen was writing. And what Ellen figured out was she had a black marker on a white whiteboard, and she would just write all the notes that these law students needed to learn in the black marker. And she had one student particularly that was struggling with it because they weren't able to focus on it. Everything just kind of blended in. And so what Ellen did was she ordered some whiteboard markers that were multiple colors, and then she started doing, okay, well, all of our vocabulary words I'm going to write in red, all the definitions I'll write in green, and this helped that student be able to focus and be able to see everything more easily. So I kind of use that as an example. So let's say if you're teaching medical terminology, today's medical word is abdomino. You could write the definition in red. What does abdomino mean? It means abdomen. You could write that in green. You can give a picture of it. This person's obviously having a stomach ache. That kind of helps them remember visually what does it look like. This isn't a real website, so don't try to go there. Go to mmm.abdomen.cls. Try to make it so unreal that you guys won't go there. But let's say they go to that website and there is an audio file. They can click on it and hear abdomen, hear what it sounds like. They see it spelled out, they can hear it pronounced. Let's say there's a video, there's a video that they can see and they can watch, the word abdomen and what that means. And so this is giving them the same content, but now you've broken it down multiple ways that somebody can understand it, whether they read it, hear it, watch it, and then they can answer this question: what does the abdomen do? And instead of saying you have to write a paragraph about what the abdomen does, you can give them choices. You can explain it, create a presentation, make a video, write a song. Just provide them ways. It really doesn't matter as long as they're able to explain to you this is what the abdomen does, and you're kind of giving them a choice. If you were a student in high school, would this be appealing to you? Some of you, I hope so. Your teacher says, I want you to tell me what the abdomen does, and you get to choose one of these ways to do it. Hopefully, you naturally will gravitate towards what interests you. If you're an artistic person, then drawing it. If you are a literal person, then writing it might be best for you. So the goal is that whatever interests you, whatever interests your students, that's what they'll gravitate towards to try to prove that that's what they know. So here are some ways, and I'm going to kind of just throw these at you. These are some ways that you can use blended learning, universal design for learning in your class. The first is called blended learning. I'm just going to show you these three. The first is blended learning. And what that means is that you're using both the online world and you're using face-to-face. So kind of what we did here, I had you guys type something on your computer to answer a question I had on the screen. That's using an online part of it. Now we're talking about it face-to-face. That's the idea of blended learning. A lot of people also use this idea to where they do something at home online, and then when they get into class that day, you get to do just the lab part. My shop teachers, you could create a video or something like, here's how you do this, here's how you change the oil, and you show them on a video. And your students are watching this at home. And then when they get into class the next day, they've got 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, to actually do that oil change. You don't have to use half the period now to show them what they have to do or talk to them about it and lecture them about it. Now they already know it coming into class. When they get to class, you have all that time to actually let them do it. So, questions so far? I'm trying to speed through these. If you have questions, seriously feel free to stop and ask a question. Next one, station rotation. This model is where you set up stations in your class and they literally just move one to one to one to one. One station is you might just have 5 or 6 of them. You're teaching them a concept. After they do that for 20 minutes, they move to the next station where they're just doing something by themselves, whatever that may be. After they've done that, then they move to the next one where they're working in groups, and then they're doing something online. I met a teacher who has 38 junior hires. Actually, it might have even been 40. She had like 38 to 40 students in her classroom, all of them junior high. She, instead of trying to teach all 40 kids by herself, she would bunch them into station rotations. And then I'd say, like, how do you do and I brought up our labs. I said, how do you even do that in a classroom that has a set lab or has a set shop or something like that? And she said, for her, she would have one of the stations would be right outside her classroom. Like, she would make up something out there, and then she would be able to see them, you know, from the hall or whatnot. But that she wouldn't limit herself to just her room. She would figure out a way to kind of make this rotation thing. And it's exciting for the students because they're changing, you know, every 20 minutes. They get to do different types of learning. Cool, exciting stuff so far? Sparking your imagination a little bit? Last one, this one I'm proud of, because it's my wife's. So this one's called a choice board. And then this one I will click on because I'm proud of it. What she did this a few years ago. Ha, I beat you, Google. All right, so she would get to this part here where they had to demonstrate that they understood the content, but they got to choose like one of each, right? So you have to choose, and she made it like a menu. So here's your entrees. You know, you can do one of these things here. Here's your appetizer. You can do one of those two. Here's your desserts, one of those three. And here's beverage. Choose one of these. And so they had some time to do these projects, but again, they got to choose, like, this is how I want to represent that I understand the material that I've learned from you. And if you know her, you know that she does a lot with online, a lot of Google content, a lot of the students get to choose what they're doing. Definitely feel free to email her, contact her, because she's got a lot of great ideas. So all that being said, what we're going to do now is in your groups, you're going to go to this bit.ly. So it's bit.ly, and this is case sensitive. You have to go to UDL, lowercase ed. And there's going to be an article there. It's not very long, but you're going to read through that article. You can either do it as a group or by yourself. What I want you to do is, after you read this article, think about some lessons you have in your class that you've taught or that you want to teach. And it could be soft skills, it could be industry specific. But think about some of the things you have in your class, and then go ahead and, as a group, think of ways you guys think you can incorporate some UDL. And then in a minute, I'm going to put a Padlet up and have you guys start dropping, because now that Deidre's here, we're going to switch to Padlet.
Oh, no, I'm just watching.
I'm just kidding. I just know you love Padlet. You love Padlet as much as I love PlayStation. So what you're going to do is work together as a group after you read the article, and then start populating stuff on the Padlet. You can put as much as you want. We're going to start throwing together some ideas of how you can use UDL in your class. All right, we're going to keep moving ahead.
You got it. I walked away from it. See what I did?
So for
Walked away from it.
1,000 brownie points, who can tell me what is UDL?
Universal learning.
Universal design learning.
No, I'm going to shout out.
You don't need
Okay,
Universal learning.
500 brownie points to each of you. What is one of the ways that you could, like, what are one of the models that you could use for good? Flipped classroom, which we did not even bring up really. Flipped classroom. What is flipped classroom?
Well, isn't that where you have them learn at home and then you're doing group activities in the class?
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of brought that up with blended learning. What's another thing that you can tell me about UDL that you've learned in this first hour?
Different ways to present a lesson, like using the whiteboard to use colors for definition and ways to do the work.
Correct. So, and again, I was trying to demonstrate as well. If you think about the first hour, what we did was I brought it up, I discussed it in a lecture, I showed you a video of it, and you read an article of it on the computer. So you've got the same information, but multiple ways. So it doesn't necessarily have to be happening at once. You could like stage it, but as long as you're touching all that. And so kind of looking at some of these, you guys have some great ideas. A lot of you like the station rotations, I noticed. Again, that's really neat to do. Students can create video tutorials, giving an assignment that students choose how they want to present the information. So giving them, so I like this one as well, like they have to do a presentation, but you're giving them multiple ways on how they're going to do that presentation. Video, Google Slides, draw something, all that. So yeah, great job. So now we're going to move into differentiation, which is the other big word that we were discussing. We did this already. But another parking lot question, and again, if you've not done your parking lot question, please put it up here. So Deidre and I, as you guys know, every Friday after TIP, we record your questions. So this one says, what are some best generic subplans?
Employability,
Employability,
soft skills, communication, because it's universal, they can use it in any job they go get it.
Yep.
That would be my go-to, like if I had to go out and sell classes,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would cover. Or if it was a retail class or a sales marketing class, I might do retail math or something.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I just like to schedule things like I'm going to be out on Google Classroom as like a draft.
Okay.
And then when I'm out, all I have to do is just sign it and publish it, and I just leave a note for the sub telling them to let the computer basically leave them on the computers and tell them to get on Google Classroom. That's all they have to do.
Right.
And then I learned with subs, like they don't really do anything. So if you leave them like a lot of detailed instructions, like you and I left them stuff, sometimes they don't fill anything out or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just do it all on Google Classroom, and then I can see who's turning it in and who's not.
Okay. That works for which teachers?
Teachers that have
Computers.
computer labs and not laptops.
Yeah.
Correct, the teachers that have labs, because if you don't have a lab and you got a card, the sub can't get in the card.
Yeah, they're all like that. But that's a good idea as well.
So I also found too on the CTE Teach website, there's a lot of, depending on what your profession is or what your subject is that you're teaching, there's a lot of the instructors that post lesson plans online, also post lesson plans for subs that are generic enough but still industry specific. So, and you don't even have to create it, you just print it up and there's your sub lesson plan. So CTE Teach does have, we talked about that at one of our first TIP meetings or something like that.
CTE online, yeah.
Yeah, and so we learned about that, but there is a ton of sub plans that are on there that I've not.
That's good as well. And I don't know if your program manager is having you do this. When my program manager made sure that I had 3 days worth of sub stuff should anything happen, and I have a box that had worksheets or whatnot in case something happened and I got sick and I wasn't planning to be out. There was something for them to do. So a couple lessons that I've used recently is I've had some index cards, handed them out to the students and said, tell me how many jobs can you think of that Disney has? And then they start writing like, ride operator and, dress up as Mickey, blah, blah, blah. And then we get into everything that is. We start talking about people who work on the trains, people who fix the trains, people who work at ABC and all the networking stuff that they do, and the construction that goes on. And then just their minds start to say that, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. And then on the back side of it, I had them write down like, what is your ideal career? Like, what do you want to do? And then the next part of it was, how are you going to get there? Because I often tell the story, like I used to want to work at Disney, but when I was in high school, like I didn't know how to get there. I had no idea because there wasn't an ROP class that taught animation. But now I know exactly how to get there, and you guys can use that. Like, how would you get from point A to point B? This is your job. What do you have to do to get there? Just that's something that you can leave for the sub, and they can use. Most of them will probably use their phone if they don't have a lab. But just what schooling do they need? That's a good one to talk about. So, sweet. Good stuff. So moving on. So with that being said, what I want you guys to do at your tables is in each of your boxes or at your tables, there's a stack of Post-it notes. And what I want you to do is write down as many learner variables that you can think of that you come across in your class or even at your school district. And so an example, like, you might have a student with dyslexia. What are some variables that come into play when students have to learn? And what you can do is put them on your table and then start placing those into groups and kind of work together doing that.
One per sticky note?
One per sticky note. So like dyslexia can be, that's the one I'll give you. Dyslexia can be one sticky note. And then for each one, you're going to write something new on individual sticky notes and then start grouping them together. What are some learner variables that students have on your campuses? Okay, so we're going to move forward. So, as you can see in your groups, and we won't dive into every single one of them. That is the best one I've seen.
What?
Of all the groups, you have the best pink one I've seen. Pink train. As you can see, there's a lot of variables / barriers that enter into your schools. As we said, there's disabilities, ADHD and dyslexia and all sorts of that. You guys probably have a mile of IEPs that you come across in your day. There's social barriers. Some of them are shy, some of them are outgoing, some of them just can't relate well with others. Economic barriers, there's, they may not have access to everything that every student has. They might not have the greatest clothes, and that kind of is a barrier for them as well. And so there's a lot that goes on into a teacher's day and in your students' lives. So kind of wanted to use this as an exercise to just have you guys be able to visually see, like, these are some real things that you guys come across in your class. So with that being said, we talked about what universal design is, but now I want to show you or discuss with you what differentiation is. And so it's basically, if universal design is like created for everybody, differentiation is then you're narrowing this lesson down for somebody specific. You have a specific student that may not completely understand it or might need it to be tweaked so that they can grasp what the lesson is. So here's kind of a graphic that shows the two. Universal design, think of it as what you're doing before the lesson. You're thinking about, how do I create this lesson, or what am I going to do so that every person in my class can understand what I'm trying to teach them. During the instruction, you're kind of going around, you're meeting individual needs, figure out who knows what, who gets what. But then differentiation, you're thinking about it after the lesson's been created. What do I need to do to modify this lesson for this student that isn't understanding it? If they have dyslexia, how do I get them to read something so that they can understand the content? And so there's kind of this, the way kind of an analogy that I thought of in doing it is, think of UDL as like a buffet. You walk into Sizzler. Sizzler still exists?
Yeah.
Do they still have all you can eat buffet or something like that? Okay. So you walk into a Sizzler. Or an El Torito on Sundays. Or hometown buffet. You walk into one of those and there's just food, or Soup Plantation. There's just food for miles, and you can go and you can grab what you want. You want bread, you want ice cream, you want Italian food, Mexican food. You can just grab it all, eat what you want. That's UDL. Differentiation is more so you're getting a specialty meal that was created just for you. You ask the chef, can I have a medium well steak with oyster sauce and whatever else, cherries on top. Sounds gross, but anyway, so then the steak prepares it specifically for you that way as you wanted it, and that's kind of the differences between the two. Giving an example, I taught animation. I had a student named John. John was autistic, and he was well, I forget what the scale is, but he was like on the lower, like he really was extremely autistic, right? And so for John, when he first came into my class, he was a very different student. And what he would do is he would take a brown crayon, he would scribble on a piece of paper, and I'd say, oh, well, that's cool, John, what is that? And he'd say, that's Shaggy. I'm like, okay. And no, sorry, he would say, that's Scooby-Doo. And then he would take a green crayon, scribble on the piece of paper, and I'd say, oh, who's that, John? And then he would say, what do you think? Shaggy. And then same thing. So he would take like a blue crayon, scribble, and then take a green scribble, and I'd say, oh, who's that? And he'd say, oh, it's Mike and Sully. So in his mind, he was just scribbling on there, and that was the characters to him. They were just these blobs of color. And I knew there's no way I'm going to get John to go from not knowing anything about animation to now to create a 1-minute animation for a showcase. He was not going to be able to feasibly do that. So what I did was I figured out for John is I could take characters, print them out, and he would trace them on a piece of paper. Sometimes he even put the paper like on the monitor, and he would trace characters on the monitor. And so after he started doing that, then the light bulb went on, and then he would take those characters and he would actually start coloring them and tracing them. So then he would take tons and tons of paper and do all this tracing. And then after he did all the tracing of all these characters, we would sit and we'd scan them in one by one by one by one. And then I asked John, hey John, what's your favorite music? And he sat with me at my desk, and we would take what we scanned in, put them in like Windows Movie Maker. He would pick the music, and then we would sit together and create this little animated video of what he had created in the class. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a year. But it was cool to see this kid that walked in, didn't know anything, was scribbling, to by the end of the class, he had a video that he had helped create that had characters that he drew and had music and everything. And now he's graduated. He's out of high school now, and so I follow him on Instagram. And when I go on his Instagram, he's got all those pictures just for days, like just picture after picture after picture, that he's still doing that and he's still enjoying it. So that long story to say, that is differentiation. I had to specialize my instruction specifically for John because John needed to have the lessons tweaked for him. So another way to kind of think about differentiation, you could say that dotted line, that's the bar, that's the lesson of where you need to get your students to. And you have all these different variables, and so they might need different platforms to get them to where they need to be. I like this quote from Carolyn Thompson. She's kind of a differentiation guru, and she says, differentiation is simply a teacher attending to the learning needs of a particular student or small groups of students rather than teaching class as though all individuals are basically alike. And as my video at the beginning showed, a lot of times we think of education as just like, here's the lesson, here's how it is, and one size is supposed to fit all. But we can't do that, otherwise our students aren't learning as much as we want them to. Any questions so far? No? All right. So here are some ways to differentiate instruction in your class. First is the content, and I won't read all of these. You can have students differentiate fact from opinion in the story, like have them read the story. Instead of writing the report, writing a book report of what the story is, just ask them, like, hey, what's true in this story, what's not true. Process allowing auditory listeners to listen to an audiobook. If they have a hard time reading, is it available? Can they hear it instead of reading it? Looking at the product, letting your visual learners create a graphic of a story. Maybe they can't write if they're in animation and they're supposed to write a story. Maybe they can't write the story, but they can at least start drawing out like what they think it is if they're not at that level. The learning environment allows students to read individually if preferred, create quiet spots for them. And so again, you kind of are tailoring your lesson for that specific student. So, so this one I wanted to show you what it might be like to be a person that has a disability trying to learn. So we'll go ahead and watch this. And actually, let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys. I'm sorry. Right. So that can also be applied to UDL, but you kind of get the idea of like how it might feel. So like, I have no idea what this person's saying. I don't understand the lesson. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get what we're supposed to do. It's just that feeling of like, I am lost. And so your job as a teacher is to help that student get from here to here. And that's where that differentiation comes into play. So I want to share with you some tools, and then we're going to do an activity after this that kind of will allow you to explore this. But these are just 3 quick tools that I'll show you about that you might be able to incorporate in your classes for students. The first one is just fun. I think it's on here, yeah. Okay, somebody give me a website. 49ers.com. Perfect.
Nobody said that.
I said Amazon.
Any other 49er fans in here?
No. Anyone admit it?
For life. Okay. Here's the 49ers NFC Championship website. If you may not know, they're playing the Chiefs. For the Super Bowl. And what the No Coffee filter does is it's a Google extension. How do I close that? My goodness. Let me go back to this. So it is a Google extension that you can download. Just click on it, and what it does is it allows you to view any website with somebody that might have a disability. So right now I can change it to somebody that has, I can't even pronounce half this stuff, protinomaly, I'm not sure. This is what that website would look like for them. Let me go back to normal. If I want to see what somebody that has macular degeneration, this is what they're seeing. Somebody that has glaucoma, this is what they see. And so this allows me, as you guys are creating stuff, this allows you to just check it and say, like, what does this actually look like? If you have a student that has one of these, you can check it before you deliver it out to them. Say, okay, now I'm gonna make this Google Doc or whatnot. You can throw this on there and see what does it actually look like for that student. Go 49ers. Oh, here, take it off. It's This one is one of my favorites. And I can see if I can do it without signing in. Okay, so if I turn on Speechify and I highlight something.
Specification, material, high intensity waterproof polyester, velvet lining, color, black, dark gray, size 13, 3 inch 14, 1 inch 15, 6 inch, size external and
Pause that, and I can change it to different voices.
Specification, material, high intensity waterproof polyester, velvet.
And so this is a great tool. I'm in school right now, and so my teachers are having me read a heck of a lot. And I have this on my phone. If I can figure out where I put it. There it is. And so my teacher gave me like a gigantic article to read this week. I don't have time to sit and read the whole thing. That comes with the territory of having a lot of kids. But
saw him in this light, and that, to everyone's surprise, he felt that this was...
So I took my teacher's PDF, plopped it in the app, hit play.
Assumption limited his and the R&D organization's effectiveness. Both shared these assumptions as assumptions, not proven fact. As a result, the ensuing dialogue opened up into a dramatic exploration of views that was unprecedented.
And I don't know why I like the British guy. I just did.
I feel fancy.
But as I'm sitting there reading it and hearing it, it's helping me grasp it. And as I'm folding my 1,000 kids of loads of laundry, I can sit and have that playing with headphones on, and I do that. So I know I have to read this book by Monday. I can sit and listen to it, see it while I'm doing something else. I can hear it while I'm driving. So even though I don't have a disability in that area, it's helping me be able to use that method of understanding the text a lot better. So again, it's called Speechify. Let me show you the last one. And this one I'm not sure it'll work in here. We'll try it because I don't know if there's a microphone set up. Are you recording? Yes. Okay. Nice. I don't know where the microphone's at. But as you can see, is that it right there? Okay.
Is that it?
Oh, here's it, right here. Okay, so as you can see, oh, that's it there. Yeah. Man, it's like the FBI. Okay.
Somebody's watching.
So as I'm talking, it is picking up everything that I'm saying. Sort of. Kind of. And this is another tool that you might have a student that's really struggling with typing, like they're chicken pecking, trying to say something. This is a quick tool that they can, instead of typing out what they're saying, and it's taking them a half hour to type a sentence, they could turn this on and just say what they want to say. Now, I'll be honest. Because I'm in school, I have to write a lot of papers. Guess what I've used to help me write my papers? This exact same thing. Teachers have said, here's what you need to write about. And I have turned this on, just started talking out loud my thoughts. Teacher thinks I'm weird. I start talking about what I want to say. How do I feel about this? What's in my brain? I just start brainstorming it. And then when I'm done, I stop it, and then I copy and paste it into my little APA format thing that I have, and I start fixing it and cleaning it up. That's what helps me, because again, I'm more of an audio visual type learner. It's harder for me to just sit and type a paper when I can just speak it out and then go back and fix it. And you might have students with the same way, especially Brittany, you're teaching online. This might be a great tool for them to be able to just talk about what it is they're experiencing. It's giving that accessibility for them. What's really funny, David's not here, is I was testing it out yesterday, and David and Elena were having this long conversation about different department stores they don't like, and it just recorded everything they were saying. I was like, and they were in Elena's office, so that was really funny that it picked it up from my desk all the way down there. So it's still going. All right, so that's speech notes, very cool. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna go to this website on your computers, and again, this is gonna be You guys are going to work together. What this website is it puts up all these different variables or barriers that students might have, and you can click on them. So we'll say like vision. You can click on the vision one, and it's going to give you different tools that you can use for this. Let me go back to this here. And after you go to the website, and again, I don't think we have time because we have about just under 20 minutes. Let me have you guys just do one. We're going to do one per table. So you're going to go to that website, find a tool as a group, and then talk about how you could use that in your classroom, and then we'll have each table share as you're doing that. Answer the questions. What is the tool? What does it do? How could you use it? Yeah, you guys work together.
Actually, I use code.org.
All right, so on the count of 3, I want you to point at the person at your table that you want to do the speaking on your group's behalf. Whoever has the most points at them is the designated winner. Ready? This is called throw the person under the bus and back up. 1, 2, 3.
He saw that coming.
I know, but you don't even let me play the game. Didn't show me where we're at.
All right, we'll start with the blue group, and we'll work our way to the left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody go ahead and listen up. Who's got thrown under the bus? Ryan did? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, teachers, if I can have your attention over here real quick.
Okay, so we went with the, go back here real quick. One more. Okay, we went with digital skill building. Because I actually use this in my classroom already, but inside there's some games for like keyboarding, or learning your keyboard better, and like there's games to help kids get faster, but there's also code.org to teach kids how to code. So that's what we kind of went with. So we all kind of took turns like playing different games and stuff like that. But yeah, it works really well just to teach kids some of these basic things that they'll need to know.
Very cool. All right, good. Go ahead and give them a hand. Good job, good job. Pink train.
All right, so we did access to technology and adaptive keyboards. I have a student who's legally blind,
Okay.
so she's always really close to the screen or the keyboard. She's got to like get really close to it to be able to see. And the adaptive keyboard has like larger letters on the board itself. It's color coded between like it's got colors for the vowels and different colors for the letters, different colors for the numbers. So that could help.
Very cool. That's a great tool. All right, give them a hand. And then the yellow group.
Well, thankfully, Group 1 already talked about ours, so we did code.org as well.
Okay.
Okay, so there's another one.
Oh.
There's Khan Academy, it says, which they just have like, it's like YouTube almost, but they have like a lot of like verified content from all subjects. And so like one of the things I've done is on Tuesdays we usually watch an animation and discuss like a worksheet. There's also something on Khan Academy, which is called like Pixar Unbox. And so when it's Tuesday, it's a late start day, so it's a shorter period. I'll just play the video off Khan Academy, and then it comes with like its own worksheet and everything that I have the students that can respond to. So it's a great way for them to kind of learn even on their own as well. It's like I said, go to Khan Academy at this link and follow the directions here.
Nice. And Khan Academy is not like animation specific.
No, it's like
got a bunch of
it's
stuff.
probably a lot more of all the other subjects, but they just happen to have an animation.
Yeah, very cool. All right, give them a hand. Good job. So hopefully you guys will use this if you're trying to think about how do I differentiate some stuff in my class.
what tools can I find? They have a lot there. So finishing up, we also have some resources on PryRop. If you get to this page, which these are the steps, or if you just click here, it'll take you to this page that has some PDFs a little bit more in depth about this subject. There's about the no coffee filter, how to create stuff online. We have, like I said, our own little ADA stuff there. Do you want to post this up? So right now we're at rejuvenation. Like you said, we're kind of working our way to summer. You guys are almost there. Pat yourself on the back. You're still alive and breathing. You made it out of November. And I don't know if you got anything else, Deidre, or? Not that I remember. Well, thank you. That's it. We are done. If you have any questions afterwards, hit us up. Good job. Give you guys a hand for being here. You're doing great.